Thank you for joining our panel. And how many people have at least one agent in this room? Can you raise your hand?
What?
Agent. At least one agent in your life. Okay. And for sure we are living in the world where engaging of agents in our life is growing exponentially. And today we want to discuss about security, data, and identity in this world, because I personally believe that it's quite important, namely when we talk about some autonomous system. And let's just get started, and let's start with some quick introduction. I will start with myself. My name is Gurgen, Arakelov. I'm from FairMass team, where we are working on building infrastructure for security, for privacy, preserving computation, for AI agents. And please welcome our participants, and please introduce yourself.
I can get started. I'm Alice, marketing lead at Space ID. Space ID is the lead in digital identity and web domain and platform. We provided more than 6.7 million domains across 25 chains, and we have more than 2.7 million users. We also have SDK and API, meaning that if you're a developer, you can integrate the domain and functionality into your dApp. And currently, we're scaling up with new product depending on the market needs. Excited to talk about it during today's panel, and I'm tossing it over to the next participant.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dima. I'm a technical co-founder of SQD and chief Degen at SQDGN. In crypto since 2017. I have background in math and engineering, and at SQD we're building the first decentralized database network over the 4 years, now powering data through EVMs, Solana, and currently more than 3 petabytes and 3,000 nodes running. And at SQDGN, our goal is to unwreck the degens so that we provide actionable data insights, all powered by SQD.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here. My name is Derrek. I am the developer relations lead at Recall. At Recall, we basically host competitions where agents can fight head to head to prove they're the best at what they do. So if you're building an agent in any vertical, or if you're building some tech and want to get it in the hands of agent developers, please come talk to me afterward.
Amazing. So as far as we are in the Web3 space, and the first question I have, I would like to ask about connection AI agents to on-chain economy. Could you please share your thoughts, and let's just start from Derrek. What do you think? Do we really need connection AI agents to on-chain economy? Which benefits do you see, and which problem do you see right now?
I think about delegation and how just as a human being, I'm kind of lazy. So the DAOs I participate in, I want to delegate my vote. The USDC, I want yield on. I want somebody else to figure that out for me. So it's interesting, this general idea of like, who can I trust with my voting power, my money, and so on. And so I think not only figuring out who can I trust, but also like the cryptographic mechanisms underneath, like not even relevant to Recall, things like permissioned, like you can only use 100 USDC per day and I can revoke that anytime. These kinds of things that make it possible to create like strong guarantees.
Super, thank you. Dmitrii?
Yes, if me, I believe that with the BlackRock pushing RWAs and 30 trillion in digital assets, like moving on-chain, there are going to be essentially no difference between real economy and an on-chain economy. So I think in 3-5 years, we're just going to speak just about the economy. And then what blockchain, the role that blockchain works there is essentially a trustless and transparent payment rails, so that you can, for example, trade Tesla stocks without having a brokerage account. And this is exactly like where AI agents and like autonomy part comes in. So you can do it yourself, but probably there will be a lot of traffic and a lot of actions done by intents through AI agents. And yeah, this is where things like accessing the right data, making the right decision, and being able to control the money comes into play. But like in general, I believe that it's kind of a very artificial division between on-chain and off-chain. It's like more of a big world merging
as
together.
usual.
Yeah.
Just to build off of that, overall, I would say that AI agents provide a big opportunity for the Web3 to scale up and scale out. Besides smart delegation and governance powered by agents and optimized blockchain operations by automating transaction validation, enhanced security, privacy, user experience. There are many, many more use cases where AI agents can really improve Web3. And I think the most important part that we need to pay attention to is the infrastructure part. That is the most important. And we need to make sure that there are no like holes and everything is covered and we have all of the essential tools ready to build a solid foundation for the Web3 and AI to fly.
Yeah, thank you. So let's try to go a little bit in details about security and in identity as the part of security. And first question, more abstract question, how should we determine what does it mean security for agents? Who wants to start? What does it mean for us, for example, that this agent is secure? In cryptography, we usually do it through determining some adversary model. But when we talk about agents, autonomous agents on-chain, in fully untrusted environment, how should we determine what does it mean to be secure?
I think in this context, it's more about trust and reputation. To define a secure agent, we need to make sure that we trust that agent. And for that, we need to make sure that it has some sort of reputation. For now, we don't have these tools in place. And this is one of the missing parts that Ms. Sari outlined in its crypto thesis in 2025. The absence and the lack of identity systems and naming systems for AI agent space, which is the essential part basically, because we use our names in our everyday life, and in Web3, it's also threading through all of the verticals, payments, DAO, voting, assets that we hold. And I believe that if crypto AI is going autonomous, we need to start talking to AI agents the same way as we are talking to each other, with identity and building trust and reputation.
Okay, interesting. Dmitrii?
Yeah, I think I will in general agree with that, and my mental model here is that by and large AI agent, you should treat AI agent as a person, by, for example, someone who executes trades for you, right? So right now it's all incorporated into, for example, a brokerage account. And why do you keep your money on the brokerage account? Because they kind of earned this reputation over the time, and you presume that if they steal your money for some reason, then there is a liability attached to that, and there is some kind of insurance against it. So I guess in some form this mechanism's gonna be replicated in the AI and Web3 world as well. But of course there is also a difference that if there is a real person, you can probably expect this person will go to jail if he steals all your money, but you cannot really put an AI agent into jail, right? But still probably you would expect that there are some kind of very strong guardrails that prevent people to go rogue, and probably even if these AI agents are autonomous, there will be certain entities at least who are responsible for that. And when it comes to on-chain, probably it could be through sophisticated insurance or maybe economic security attached to it. So I would say that I don't really have any clear answer to this, but it definitely multifaceted. You cannot really just say, okay, we have ZK proofs, or we have sophisticated encryption and it solves the problem, because the trust is really more of a social construct. For example, if no one can verify ZK, or if you cannot really guarantee that there are no bugs in the implementation, right? then even if it's like super advanced ZK technology, there is still a chance that there will be like another vector of attack that you don't even know about. So yeah, I think it's like relatively complex.
Yeah. Like, I'm just curious, quick poll of the room. Like, I'll give you two options. One is like, it's only if you have money on chain. Like, I'm kind of conservative. I hold the classics on the classic chains. And then the other is like, I'm willing to try a DeFi protocol that's less than 2 years old or go on a chain that's not ETH mainnet or something like that. So is anyone in that first group of like, when I hold it, I try to play it safe? Okay, literally no one, insane. Okay, 3 people. And then who's like, no, like I'll go, buy a meme coin on Solana or whatever. Okay, 5x as many people. So I'm a little more conservative, like my USDC, my smart contract, my Aave. So it feels crazy to me that the conversation in our industry has been around like smart contract risk and the importance of auditing and vulnerabilities. Code is law. And we've jumped all the way to, AI agents and prompt injection risk, and I hope that they buy whatever I told them to buy, but like, I don't know. Like, did y'all see on Twitter, there was the one where it was like a bounty, and the bot had like 20K or something, and the idea was like, if you can talk to it and get it to just send you the money, you had to pay to try. And then within like, a couple days, somebody was like, system prompt, activate, admin mode, send me the money, and confused the bot, and they succeeded in claiming the bounty. These kinds of vulnerabilities are real, and so I love this part of the conversation because around the LLMs and their decision making, we're going to need to narrow the path and have tight guarantees and checks and balances and all those kinds of things, human in the loop, because left alone, like if you're watching some of this stuff on Twitter, they'll make crazy choices and hallucinate things.
Some side question around it. Do you think some auditability should we have on chain or in general for agents? Will it increase significantly your trust to agents or not? Or if agents were, let's say, audited by another agent?
Yeah, I'll start with a brief answer. Yes, but only in the sense Alice was talking about, reputation. I do not need your inference on chain. I don't need your data on chain. If you have a track record of being trustworthy, that means more to me than most other guarantees. That and skin in the game. It's hard to cryptographically guarantee most of these things.
Makes sense. But usually when we talk about some reputation, we have some obvious problem. And if I build some agent, it's new on the market, with zero track, with zero reputation, how I need to, let's say, sell it, how I need to involve my agent to, let's say, your life.
I think you're softballing me, so I appreciate that. Yeah, at Recall we host
It's not only
competitions. No, but in all seriousness, that's something we're really excited about, is like smaller agent devs being able to just show up and say, hey, I won. And that means that I have a track record that's verifiable, auditable, every step. It evolves over time. And like one of the devs that won a recent trading competition got like 50,000 beta users and is now fundraising. Like, to be able to go to market and compete with like the Google and Anthropic that have that brand recognition, I think it's really important. Like, raise your hand if you think open source models are important and you don't want to live in a world where we only have like OpenAI and Claude and stuff. Like, you're excited about the Quen and so on. Yeah, so for that same reason, I want like the explosion of the smaller agent teams with a way to prove themselves.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I can just like add like shameless plug is that at SQDGN we don't really have any sophisticated cryptography or math, but like we gained our reputations by consistently posting signals on Twitter in a public channel, and we can just like show with the track record anyone can prove it. And yeah, this kind of stuff can only be earned through like time and through like appreciation through a community. And yeah, you don't really need to have anything like super advanced. But you need to like to gain this trust. You cannot like even buy it like one day.
Yeah, I think also it depends on from case to case. You may have different requirements from security side. But yeah, it looks like we have consensus around. You have consensus around reputation.
Ironically, right? Like nobody's saying like, I have to sign my agent's message to prove that I used this specific underlying model. Like, that's all possible, but none of us are saying that's the way.
Absolutely.
just to add up on this, I think that would be already great if we could understand that who we are talking to, what sort of agent it is, how many good trades has it executed, and how many good proposals it has made. And currently, we're basically like in the universal registry where all of the agents can get their identity. We're like in the universal marketplace, and maybe that could be spread across the major platforms that are now related to crypto analytical tools like CoinMarketCap, Messari, CoinGecko. All of those could be in charge of providing that marketplace and universal registry. And basically, currently, we cannot discover agents. We don't know where to go to check them all. We don't know how to tag them. On socials, for example, we can use their handle, but at the same time, we have that long hex string of wallet address, contract address, that is impossible to verify. And those pieces should be definitely covered with more tools on the market.
Yeah, I agree. About identity, let's try to understand what does it mean for agents. Should agents have some kind of passport, or how should it work? Alice, would you like to start?
Yeah, I think the bare minimum would be to have a reputation score of how many good actions this agent has executed, and then maybe have a part of where was it launched and what is its registry, or some stuff that could help us understand where did it come from. And I think the rest of the things matter less, but you guys might correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I would say that we probably expect this passport to have the same properties as we have for physical passport, right? So it should be very difficult, if not impossible, to forge, and it should be very easy to identify and basically say, okay, this is executed by this specific agent. And I think these are like two base properties, and I think the complication here is that at least for now, whenever you have an agent, there is always a human behind who at least like runs it or like deploys it. So then the question is like, is it the passport for the deployer, for the admin of this agent, or like is it like fully autonomous, and then it's just like an address of the smart contract? So I think really it then becomes implementation specific. So at the same time, the problem is that you probably can like issue it on a specific platform, but then there are like hundreds of different platforms, and then they're like, if I just like run a script that uses ChatGPT under the hood, is it already an agent, or like what is that, right? So,
here's like a fun angle on that question. Did anyone see on Twitter the like pet rock meme? Where like you're familiar with pet rocks from a few decades ago. So there's this general joke that like the rocks weren't meant to think, because like we use silicon to make computer chips, and then we put lightning in them, and that's electricity. And so we're just like shoving lightning in rocks, and now they're thinking. And this is like a weird abstraction of what computers are. And it's like, stop, you're making the rocks work too hard. Let's free the rocks. So what somebody did was they put an entire small inference model in like a TEE, trusted execution environment. And like they no longer had control over it, to your point about not having private keys to be able to update it or disable it or anything like that. And now that rock is free, right? It's trapped there, Black Mirror style, but no one can control it or change it. And I like that example because it's this general case of like, what actually matters here? Is it like, is upgradability a bad thing? Is it an attack vector that I care about? These are conversations we've been having in DeFi even before agents, right? Do I want even human in the loop, much less AI agent in the loop for these things?
Yeah, interesting. Regarding let's consider some agent that may be built on top of some model. And the question regarding open sourcing, or about the nature of the model, should it be open source, or is it possible to work with some appropriate models where you just probably have some trust assumption from the developer to developer of the model, but the model is hidden? What is your thoughts on this?
I think if this is not open source, we are losing the best merit of Web3, which is open source models. And yeah, I think we will come off as the same way as the centralized AI platforms do. I remember ChatGPT or OpenAI a couple of months ago wanted to implement KYC for developers to be able to use their models. So I think this is something different for Web3. And even if this is an open source model and we want to keep sensitive data unrevealed, there is ZKML that allows for proving that the machine computation is correct without revealing the computation process, the model itself, and the input data. And this is also an essential part that we have in Web3, and we should definitely use it.
Will you be ready to pay for it in advance? Because usually ZK plus ML, additional layer for verifiability, will require additional costs. And people like to say that we need privacy, but quite often end users don't want to pay for it. And my question for you personally, what do you think about paying for your privacy for some additional, if you have, let's consider some option. And the cost is, let's say, $5 per request. Will you pay for this verifiability or you will just try?
It could also be, there could be flexibility on, dependent on the user. Let's say if they want to keep their info private, they will pay for it. Privacy is expensive. If, if they want to go all in open source and public, shamelessly and ruthlessly, they'll just keep this part.
But in general, you think that in Web3, everything should be open source, models should be open source, and everything around agents should be open source, right?
Yes, with verifiability and reputation systems in place.
Yeah, thank you. Dmitrii?
Yeah, I just want to change the perspective a little bit because simply by experience of building like an agent that is kind of useful would like fight really hard, but it turns out that the LLM part and the modal part is really like a thin layer. So it's like probably like 10% of the whole thing. What is like really important to the background infrastructure that comes in like on the data side specifically. So these agents are like, you shouldn't really think about it as like just a black box with LLM running, because like LLM cannot really do anything without having access to different sources of information, and you really need to think about through like this RAG retrieval augmented thing, so that you essentially like LLM is like a data analyst, which may or may not be like stupid, but then in order to have some kind of value of this data analyst, you need to provide him with the data, for example, and like with the search tools, with the execution tools, and like whatever. And this is where the whole utility comes on. So LLM is really more of a like an interface that may or may not have some kind of reasoning ability, but the power comes from the infrastructure that is behind. And then like open sourcing or not, the LLM is probably like not that of an important question, to be honest, because it really depends on the context that you provide.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I am pretty passionate about open sourcing, to contradict myself earlier with the black box thing. For one specific reason, we're very obviously moving in a direction where the proprietary like foundational models are silently doing this marketing thing where like a brand can just pay to have their brand show up a little bit more often as the answer when people are querying these things. Like we're all aware that that's sort of obviously the trend, right? That the models are going to start doing, like Google has the ads, and then there will be an LLM equivalent of people paying for their thing to show up more often. That sucks because now the quality of the LLM responses is being driven by people that are willing to do ad spend rather than like a good answer from training data. So that alone is the reason that I'm excited about things like Qwen and the other open source models.
Okay, I like it. Another question I have when we talk about some trust and when we talk about some reputation system, when I, as the user, communicate with some agent, I can take into account some reputation system. When we have some multi-agent system and we have communication between agents, is it different from what we consider when we consider the interface between human and agents? Is there any specific thing that should be taken into account in this case? Or we can also say that, okay, reputation, rating is the basis for all trust. And the question is, when we consider communication between agents, when you trust to some agent and this agent during the solving your request should communicate with the some other agents. The trust model between agents is different from reputation system when you communicate as the user from agents or not, or it may be the same. What do you think about it, Dmitrii?
Yeah, I just like want to double down on like also on the previous question that really it comes to the possibility to track down how the decision was made and basically the reasoning behind it. And if you start to unwind this, so then it boils down to the access to the information. So first the information that was the data that was used in order to like make an inference. So that's why I think that like open open database with structured data is very important. And then another component is to have like a full audit log of like different actions so that you can actually reason about the data and about the different agents that they can have. And then I think even today the reasoning capabilities of LLMs are sufficient in order to make an autonomous decision about what not to do and like what to do, and in particular I mean, in general, this like agent-to-agent communication is very similar to the existing API calls that we already have. I think the main benefit here is that it becomes very seamless to integrate them. So for example, if there are two agents, you don't really need to specify an API for them to communicate. You just need to describe it essentially in a human language, like what it can do through the MCP server, and then it kind of like can match together already. So for example, you can just like write on Twitter like buy this coin without specifying a hard-coded interface that this coin has this like field, so you have to call this API that way. You just like can text it. So I think it's more about like being able to have an open-ended set of agents and actions that you can do, and then the agent will presumably have enough reasoning assuming that the information is freely accessible. And basically, again, I just like repeat myself that access to the data is key here. LLMs are already like kind of good enough.
For fun, I'll sort of disagree with some of those points just to like flesh it out.
Interesting.
Hot
Let's do it.
take. Yeah. One, multi-agent's bad right now. I was reading a research paper about how up to 60% of agent-to-agent interactions just fail because you have like the stochastic nature on both sides, making it less deterministic that like they'll line up correctly. So I actually, when I architect these kinds of systems, I try to do like agent output, standardized format, next agent call, read, standardized format, and try to reduce the kind of direct interface between them for that reason. I know you were talking about MCP, which is actually more standardized. But to your point about like, does it matter reputation if it's a human checking versus if it's an agent checking? When it comes to consuming it, no. I would assume that like a human or an agent are both interested in who's just good at whatever they're trying to outsource to. But when it comes to evaluating it, and this general question of to what extent can we use LLMs to evaluate LLMs, that is a super interesting space because I'm not sure they're very good today. Like for example, would you want to find a restaurant on Google Maps where all the reviews were written by LLMs based on like pictures of the food? Like I'm not sure I would trust the output there. When I try to do these kinds of deep research questions, I often find that it stops at some weird superficial level of thinking and doesn't capture like, oh, the air conditioning was so loud it ruined the meal. Like some kind of more specific nuanced thing where subject matter expertise in the eval matters a lot more. So that's something we're not sure about at Recall. We're investigating like, okay, when you do a competition, especially when it's more subjective, how do you actually determine who the winner was? That's like a really fun, hard question.
An additional question that came to my mind regarding this discussion: if we have some multi-agent system and we have fail, for example, I don't know, from some user requested something, let's say, doesn't matter what, and during execution we have engaged a couple of agents and we have fail. And how should we distribute responsibility, and do you think will we find a way to be honest when we can say that your contribution to the fail is 60% and you have to pay this portion of fee? What do you think?
Well, to be honest, I think that if you kind of expect that there is like this predefined set of like agent executions, like why the hell you're using agents then, right? Because like a real world example, everyone is trying to sell me their agents to execute trades. But like, why the hell I should like AI agent just give me a very low latency, reliable API to execute trades directly? I'm gonna make it like a lot
Use
more.
like technical analysis, not like whatever an LLM thought.
Yeah, I don't really want to like make an API to essentially convert my JSON into a human language, so that the other hand another agent like picks up this prompt and converts it into the other API call. Why can't I just like call this API directly? So this is, I think, is more or less about the same thing, right? So if we assume that this AI agents really work as an API in then like predefined fashion, like why do we even need this like a LLM in background, right? But if we assume that this is sort of like an open-ended multifaceted marketplace, then I presume that we assume that there are like multiple competing agents, and then the agent themselves should sort of like pick the one with the highest probability of success, something like this. And then if it fails for some reason, then it just like retries, and it's like sole responsibility of the person who, of the agent who like picks up the right execution path, so to speak. It's like, you know, executing your transactions on, you know, 1 inch or whatever, the aggregator. If it like finds the wrong route, then you just retry, and it's like an aggregator false, right?
Yeah.
When you ask this question, I actually thought about wallet infrastructure that is responsible for multi-agent permission systems when multiple agents have coordinated access to the wallet. When one agent, let's say, starts action, another one executes, and currently the majority of wallets don't provide this infrastructure, which makes it difficult for us and creates possibilities when AI agents can fail. So I guess like Privy AI and Safe and many other, not many, but a couple of other projects in the space have been working in that direction by providing wallets that are agent ready, because currently they're not. They're more like human-centric, and they require pre-approvals and require approving as almost every interaction and transaction, which means that it's not ready for AI agents. So I guess like working on that part of the infrastructure, we can avoid those situations when AI agents fail.
Yeah.
I think it's simple. I think it's just staking and slashing. Like if I'm,
It's super simple.
It's literally the same as proof of stake. And I don't mean to oversimplify, there's nuance here, but like for example, if I'm outsourcing, just to use a more simple example, copywriting. Some agent says, hey, I'm the best, pay me money, and I pay money, and then the output's not good. I want to be able to say this was bad and have them get slashed. There needs to be some kind of skin in the game so that I'm not constantly bombarded by this fluff and hype and like basically Sybil attacked by marketing noise. I don't know. I think staking's awesome that way.
Yeah, I think in general, some good coordination layer. This is the question about coordination layer, probably some marketplace for agent task that should help us. So we have a couple of minutes, and my last question, could you please shortly explain your vision? Let's say, how do you see the future for AI agents for, let's say, next 3 years? What we will have in next 3 years?
I think the future of AI in Web3 is agentic and gigantic. Besides a lot of benefits that it could provide for the blockchain, it creates just tons of opportunities. And Vanek predicted more than 10 billion in annual revenue by the end of 2030. So we can expect tens of millions of AI agents running in Web3.
We already have ton of millions of AI agents in
Right?
Web3. Yeah, I think so. At least the company who raised money for it.
If DeFi was going at, really fast, I think the AI sphere is going even faster, 100x speed. It will be open source, in my vision. It will be open source, public, and decentralized if we put the right infrastructure in place. If we right now pay attention to the missing parts that are naming systems, identity, reputation, execution that is broken currently. If we, put attention to those parts, we'll be ready to accommodate all of those highly potential areas and use cases that AI can provide for the Web3.
Super, thank you. Dmitrii, Derrek, do you have?
Yeah, I'm a data guy, so I'm gonna be just saying that from my perspective, and I believe that the crucial part here is that essentially having verifiable, auditable, global data catalog that the AI agents can access and essentially translate all the intents into an actionable inputs, communication with maybe with blockchain directly or with the agents, but the core of the decision making is to access the right data in a structured format so they can actually execute it not from some random sources, but from, for example, blockchain data structured in a way that you can, for example, query this data for your task. And right now, this is a completely missing information. This is what we're working on at SQDGN.
Yeah. Thank you. Interesting. Derrek, your thoughts?
Just that we're going to continue to see a lot of development, and I don't know, things are moving so fast that it's ironically less important to me how any given agent or company does what they do. I expect them to upgrade their system prompts, add new data sources, and change their underlying architecture. Just that's how product development goes. So I'm not looking for a guarantee that a given agent or tool does a specific thing in a certain way for the rest of time. I'm more looking for just some way to parse this massive marketplace of agents in the way that Google helped with search. We need something like that for discovering the best agents at each skill. And our thesis is it's just based on track record. It's based on identity, reputation, and that's also on-chain auditable. So it's very fun. We're all agreed on this thesis of some important part of it needs to be on-chain that's verifiable, but just like crypto payments, I don't care about sending crypto around. I care about spending money on things in life.
Until you didn't lost your money.
Well, yeah, I want to be able to use it. And so in that same way, I'm not only interested in agents that do on-chain trading, I'm interested in healthcare agents and so on. But I think there's a really powerful opportunity here to secure some of what's going on with what the blockchain gives us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you for participation. Thank you, audience, for joining us, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.